Hi, and welcome to yet another tutorial for this time the mechanics of searching. We've talked a little bit about the Missoula College Library, and we've talked about how to do research in a college library, things to know and to be familiar with. Now we're going to talk about how to actually do some searches in library resources, and this will actually benefit you as well just with general web searches, I think. We're going to go over the development of terms, the keywords as they're called, and then we're going to talk about what's called the search logic, the structure of making a search in any sort of online resource, any sort of database. And then we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration. So the term keywords, this is the library jargon for those words that you put into a search. It could be a search like Google, it could be a search like the library resources that we're going to see a little bit later in this video. This unfortunately really makes all the difference, the words that you use in these resources. It frankly all comes down to it. And this is very challenging and stressful for students. There's a recent study called Project Information Literacy that just came out at the end of 2013, where they surveyed students all across the United States, first-year students in a variety of colleges, from private four-year colleges to two-year colleges like Missoula College, and 80% of students found this issue of keywords to be the most difficult part of using the library. Not figuring out what to use to search in, not figuring out what they found, but just the idea of coming up with these darn words. So don't feel bad if this is the hard part for you. It's the hard part for everyone, and the library is here to help. Here in this video I'm going to present some tools on how to come up with these words, how to put them together. But remember that we in the library are here to help. Your instructors are here to help. You can always talk to a fellow student about these words. It's kind of ridiculous that they're so important, but they are. So just keep that in mind as we look at places to come up with keywords. I'm sure you have all heard how awful Wikipedia is and to never use it as an academic resource, but it is by far the best place that I know of that's got a great description of topics, including the words to use to describe the topics in databases. If somebody ever asks me a reference question where I'm not super familiar with the topic, I look it up in Wikipedia first and get a handle on the jargon, get a handle on the keywords. It is great for that. Another good resource is to just search Google in the words that you would use for a topic, and the words that come up in the results can sometimes help you gather terms that work better in library resources. A third place to look in the center of the screen, and this I would rely on a little bit more than the other two, would be your lecture notes, your textbooks, the things your instructors say about your topic, how they describe your topic, the words they use, and also to an extent talking to the people in your class, your fellow students, to see what terms they have picked up on. And you'll learn a little bit later in this lesson about the power of working together, about brainstorming. But before we talk about that, let's talk about something that is called in library jargon and in computer science jargon, the Boolean logic of searching. And that annoying phrase just means the way you combine your terms. When you come up with these little phrases that we're going to talk about in a minute, you can link them together in various ways. The most common one, and the one that most search engines default to, is that term in the center there, and. And what that means is one word that you put in, say global warming, a phrase or a word, and what other phrase you put in, like human factors. It will search that sort of overlapping section in the middle just by default. That's what and means. If you put in or, so global warming or human factors, that'd be kind of a weird search, but it would get both of those bubbles. It wouldn't exclude the non-overlapping parts. If you were looking for global warming, say that's the yellow bubble, but you don't want the human factors, the overlapping part will be cut out. That would be the not in that case. And of course, anything outside the yellow bubble would not be included in your search. So that was a very brief visual. You'll probably have to run a few searches to see some examples of this in practice, or if this isn't making a lot of sense, talk it over with somebody. Draw it up on your own notes to try to work it out visually, and that'll help you conceive of it. The most important one is and that's the one, like I said, that's the default that search engines, including Google, will assume you mean. So, and most of the times that's what you do mean, but think about these other aspects that you could use in your searches. So coming up with those words to combine with the ands or the ors or the nots. There's a few different ways. I definitely don't recommend just sitting down at the computer and going, because our brains shut off when our hands hit the keyboard. My number one tool is called mind mapping, and that's where you put your main topic in the middle, global warming in this example. You put out some branching examples of things like the human factor we already mentioned is branching out from the economic side of global warming, geographical, political, environmental, and you connect to those in the little bubbles terms that connect up. So up in political, you can see there's Kyoto Protocol. That's a treaty that was signed regarding global warming. The roles of the government in global warming are coming out off to the side. It's a great way to brainstorm things, and this works really well if you have a group of 2 or 3 or even a whole class of people talking about a particular topic. Coming up with words you may not have thought of, terms you may not have connected. Even just writing it out in a simple, list on a piece of paper works really well. But I definitely recommend thinking about the words, thinking about your terms, what your main topic is, and the interrelationship between the other little elements before you sit down at the computer. So once we've done that, we can talk about constructing the search. Let's go to the library website. Let's say we're going to look at global warming and human factors. So I've connected them with the word and we'll see that we've got back at the top 115, almost 116,000 things. And if you do a search anywhere, you have several ways of limiting things down at this point. You can add in more terms up at the top. So in United States, maybe. That will limit things down. It went down to 78,000. That definitely cut a few things out. If you look off to the left side, and this is true in a lot of search engines, off to the left, off to the right, at the top, at the bottom, there's checkboxes that you can use to limit things down. We talked in the last lesson about scholarly publications. There's a nice checkbox just for that. There's checkboxes for all the different types of resources, books, magazines, newspapers. There's suggested terms as well. And then another thing that you can think about with regard to your keywords and building your search is, are you looking for a particular date? Global warming's been in vogue for many years. Maybe you just want the last 4 or 5 years. You can easily look for just those resources. So the picture that I had in the slide here was of a funnel. Think of what's being poured into the funnel as all of the research on a particular topic, all the writings on global warming, a very broad topic that's been talked about incessantly since the 1970s. What you want to get to down in the bottom of the jar is just a few things to dig through. Remember the digging and digging and digging that we talked about last time. It's a lot easier to dig and dig and dig through just a little thing than the whole universe of things. So hopefully constructing a search through the use of proper keywords, developing those keywords hopefully on paper before you start searching, maybe talking to a classmate, looking through your textbook, reviewing some things on Wikipedia or just on Google to get the right terminology. And then thinking about ways to narrow down, such as using a date, using a particular type of resource like scholarly journals, maybe a geographical limitation like we put in United States. all of these things can help make your searches a lot less frustrating and help you find what you're looking for.